My name is Aina, and my life in Greenfield was as predictable as the sunrise. I'm 25 years old, and I always lived in Greenfield, a small town where everybody knows everybody. My life was simple, comfortable. I worked at the local library, a job I truly enjoyed. Surrounded by the familiar scent of old books and the hushed whispers of patrons, I felt at peace. My days followed a gentle routine: mornings at the library, evenings at home with my parents, and weekends spent with my close-knit group of childhood friends, Sarah and Maria. We would often sit on Sarah's porch, drinking homemade lemonade that her mom made, talking about our lives and sharing our dreams. That seemed as distant as the stars. I loved Greenfield. It was home, a place where every street corner held a memory, every face was familiar. But a part of me, a little voice in the back of my mind, yearned for something more, something different. I devoured books about faraway cities, especially New York City. My imagination painted vivid pictures of bustling streets, towering skyscrapers, and a life filled with endless possibilities. I dreamed of visiting Times Square, seeing a Broadway show, and walking across the Brooklyn Bridge. But these were just fantasies, tucked away in the back of my mind like a favorite, well-worn book. One rainy Tuesday, a letter arrived that would change everything. I almost didn't open it. I get a lot of junk mail. It was from a large publishing company in New York City, offering me a position as a junior editor. Junior editor, me! I remember my hands started shaking. I had applied on a whim months ago, never truly believing I would be considered. It was like sending a message in a bottle out to sea, never expecting it to reach ashore. Now, holding the offer letter, I felt a mix of excitement and terror. New York City was everything Greenfield wasn't: vast, anonymous, and intimidating. New York City? My mother's voice was filled with concern when I showed her the letter. But that's so far away, Aina. I know, Mom, I replied, my voice trembling slightly. But it's a great opportunity. A junior editor position. My dad, always the practical one, chimed in, "It's a big decision, Aina. New York is expensive. And it's a completely different world." I know, Dad, it's scary, but I paused, searching for the right words. But it's also exciting. It's a chance to grow, to learn, to experience something new. Sarah and Maria were just as surprised when I told them. New York City? Sarah's eyes widened. That's amazing, Aina. But also, wow, that's huge. You always did love those big city books, Maria said with a knowing smile. Maybe it's meant to be. Their words echoed the turmoil in my own heart. A part of me wanted to stay in the safe, familiar comfort of Greenfield. But another part, the part that dreamed of big cities and new adventures, urged me to take a leap of faith. The publishing company was offering me a chance to work with books to help bring stories to life. It was a dream come true, even if it was a dream I hadn't dared to fully embrace until now. I spent the next few days in a whirlwind of emotions. I read the offer letter 100 times, each time feeling a surge of excitement followed by a wave of doubt. Could I really do this? Could I leave behind everything I knew and loved for a life in a city that felt both exhilarating and terrifying? The support of my family and friends was crucial. They saw the spark in my eyes, the yearning for something more. They knew, perhaps even better than I did, that I needed to take this chance. My parents, despite their worries, encouraged me to follow my heart. Sarah and Maria, though sad at the thought of me leaving, were thrilled for me. "You have to go, Aina," Sarah said, squeezing my hand. "This is your chance. And we'll visit, of course. It won't be the same without you," Maria added, "but we'll be cheering you on every step of the way." Their unwavering belief in me gave me the courage I needed. I accepted the job offer. It felt like stepping off a cliff, not knowing if I would fly or fall. But deep down, I knew I had to try. I had to see if I could make it in the city of my dreams. The weeks leading up to my departure were a blur of packing, goodbyes, and nervous anticipation. I sorted through my belongings, deciding what to take, what to leave behind, and what to donate. Each item I packed felt like a small step towards my new life. I found an apartment online, a tiny studio in a neighborhood called the East Village. It was expensive, much more than I was used to, but it was in a vibrant area, close to several subway lines. And most importantly, it was mine. Saying goodbye to my parents at the Greenfield bus station was one of the hardest things I've ever done. Tears streamed down my mom's face as she hugged me tightly. My dad, usually so stoic, had tears in his eyes too. "We're so proud of you, Aina," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "Go chase your dreams." "We'll miss you terribly," my mom added, "but we know you'll do great things." I hugged them both, my heart aching. "I'll miss you too," I whispered. "I'll call you every day." Sarah and Maria were waiting for me at the bus stop, their eyes red-rimmed but their smiles wide. We hugged, a tangle of arms and tearful promises to stay in touch. "Don't forget about us little people when you're a big-shot editor," Sarah joked, trying to lighten the mood. "Never," I said, laughing through my tears. "You guys are stuck with me no matter where I go." As the bus pulled away, I looked back at my family and friends waving goodbye. Greenfield, with its familiar streets and comforting routines, was shrinking in the distance. A wave of sadness washed over me, but it was quickly followed by a surge of anticipation. I was heading towards the unknown, towards a new life in a city that held both challenges and opportunities. New York City was overwhelming, to say the least. The moment I stepped off the bus at Port Authority, I was engulfed by a sea of people, a cacophony of sounds, and a whirlwind of smells. Yellow taxis honked impatiently, sirens wailed in the distance, and the air vibrated with a frenetic energy that was both exciting and intimidating. My tiny studio apartment was on the 4th floor of a walk-up building. The stairs were narrow and steep, and I struggled to carry my heavy suitcases up to my new home. The apartment itself was small, even smaller than the pictures online had suggested, but it had a large window that let in plenty of natural light, and from it I could see a sliver of the bustling street below. This was it, my new home. The first few weeks were a blur of new experiences and challenges. I started my job at the publishing company, which was located in a towering skyscraper in Midtown. The office was a maze of cubicles and meeting rooms filled with people who seemed to know exactly what they were doing. I felt like a small fish in a very large pond, struggling to keep up with the fast-paced environment. My coworkers were friendly but busy, and I often felt lost and overwhelmed. Learning the subway system was another adventure. The first time I tried to navigate it, I ended up going in the wrong direction and getting completely lost. I had to ask for help several times, and I felt a blush creep up my cheeks as I fumbled with my Metro card. But I was determined to figure it out. I studied the subway map diligently, asked for directions when I needed to, and slowly, I began to understand the intricate network of lines that crisscrossed the city. Even simple tasks like grocery shopping felt different. The supermarkets were larger and more crowded than anything I was used to in Greenfield. There were so many choices, so many unfamiliar brands. I spent hours wandering the aisles, comparing prices and trying to decipher labels. I missed the familiar faces of the shopkeepers in Greenfield, the ease of knowing where everything was. Loneliness was a constant companion. I called my parents every day, their voices a comforting lifeline to my old life. I texted with Sarah and Maria, sharing stories of my new adventures and listening to their updates on life in Greenfield. But it wasn't the same as having them here with me. I missed our movie nights, our coffee dates, our easy conversations. Slowly but surely, I started to find my footing. I learned to navigate the subway with confidence, even during rush hour. I discovered a small, independent bookstore near my apartment, a place that reminded me of the library back home. The owner, a kind woman named Mrs. Davis, always had a recommendation ready for me, and we would often chat about books for hours. It became my sanctuary, a quiet corner in the bustling city. I also found a small family-owned Italian restaurant a few blocks from my apartment. The aroma of garlic and tomatoes always drew me in, and the owner, a jovial man named Tony, treated me like a regular. From my first visit, he would tell me stories about his family, about his journey from Italy to New York, and about the history of the neighborhood. It was there, over plates of pasta and glasses of red wine, that I started to feel a sense of belonging. Work became more manageable too. I made a friend, a girl named Chloe, who worked in the marketing department. She was a native New Yorker, and she took me under her wing, showing me the best places to get lunch, helping me navigate office politics, and introducing me to other people in the company. "Don't worry about feeling lost," she told me one day during our lunch break. "Everyone feels that way when they first move here. It's part of the process. You'll find your place." And she was right. I started to feel more confident in my abilities as an editor. I learned the ropes, developed relationships with authors, and even contributed some ideas that were well received. My boss, a woman named Mrs. Johnson, who initially seemed intimidating, turned out to be a great mentor. She recognized my passion for books and encouraged me to take on more responsibility. One day, Ms. Johnson called me into her office. "Anna," she said, "I've been very impressed with your work. You have a good eye for detail, and you're a quick learner." I blushed, surprised and pleased by her praise. "Thank you, Ms. Johnson," I said. "I really enjoy working here." "I'm glad to hear that," she said, smiling. "Because I'm promoting you to assistant editor." I couldn't believe it. It felt like a dream come true. I had worked so hard and it was finally paying off. I had worked so hard and it was finally paying off. I called my parents immediately to share the good news. They were overjoyed. their voices filled with pride. Months turned into a year, and New York City started to feel like home. I explored different neighborhoods, each with its own unique character and charm. I visited museums, went to concerts, and saw Broadway shows just like I had always dreamed of. I discovered hidden gems, a tiny park tucked away between skyscrapers, a rooftop bar with breathtaking views of the city skyline, a vintage clothing store filled with treasures from bygone eras. One sunny Saturday, Chloe and I decided to have a picnic in Central Park. We spread out a blanket on the grass, surrounded by people playing frisbee, reading books, and enjoying the beautiful weather. As we ate our sandwiches and talked, I realized how much my life had changed in the past year. "Remember when you first moved here?" Chloe asked, a mischievous glint in her eyes. "You were so lost," I laughed, remembering my early struggles. "I know," I said. "I was terrified. I thought I'd never figure it out." "But you did," she said, smiling. "You're a New Yorker now." Her words struck a chord within me. She was right. I had adapted, I had grown, and I had found my place in this vast and vibrant city. I was no longer the small-town girl who had arrived a year ago, wide-eyed and overwhelmed. I was a New Yorker, confident, independent, and full of dreams. One evening, as I was walking home from work, I noticed a new exhibit at a small art gallery near my apartment. I decided to stop in, drawn by the vibrant colors and bold strokes of the paintings on display. As I wandered through the gallery, I noticed a man standing near one of the paintings, a thoughtful expression on his face. He had kind eyes and a warm smile. We started talking about the art, and I learned that his name was David and that he was a musician. We talked for a long time, discovering shared interests and a similar sense of humor. He made me laugh, a genuine laugh I hadn't felt in a long time. As I walked home that night, the city lights seemed to twinkle a little brighter. I realized that my journey was far from over. There were still so many things to see, so many things to learn, and so many people to meet. New York City was a place of endless possibilities, and I was ready to embrace them all. My heart, once filled with a mix of fear and excitement, was now filled with a sense of belonging and a quiet confidence. In the future, I knew with absolute certainty that coming to New York City was the best decision I had ever made. It wasn't just a new chapter in my life. It was a whole new book waiting to be written, and I couldn't wait to see what the next chapter held.